fun.
Yeah. All right, just let me know when everybody can see it. All right, everything look good?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, let me get my timer started. I'm really good about that 6 minutes, so I want to make sure. Well, hey, everybody, I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, I'm Patrick. I'm the founder and CEO of the Legend Travel app. So basically, in January 2019, I left my job as a software product director and overall division president for a school bus tracking app. Because I just decided that I didn't want to manage the tracking and tracing and data analytics behind school buses. Just really didn't do it for me. But I was actually really fortunate to be able to travel around the country and around the world, both for work and for pleasure. And I kept running into this same issue over and over again. I'm this very like, want to find out about the culture. I want to get to know the local side of things. And really, I never found a good place to get it. And so if you want to do, let's see, like a first little exercise here is, if you've ever planned a trip before, does this look like you? You went to Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google, Instagram, Airbnb, Lonely, but like bought a guidebook. This is kind of how I was planning trips. And there's some wild statistics about how much time people spend. Actually, the statistic is people spend longer planning their trip than they actually spend on their trip. And that's just a problem, right? And why is that a problem? First, there's way too much information out there. So there's millions of pages of content, whether it's blogs or top 10 articles or even online guidebooks. So there's just millions of pages of content. So it's kind of overwhelming. Then travelers aren't really sure who to trust, right? There's really low confidence, so which just leads to more research. So how do I trust this person who wrote this review? Or what's the intention of this newspaper? Do they have them as an advertiser? Not really sure. And it's not relevant to the audience, right? So if a 19-year-old blogger goes on and says, the top 10 things to do in Scottsdale, that really doesn't apply to me. And then finally, information is stale and out of date, and that's especially important right now. The competition out there, there's actually 5 really well-funded startups that actually started between 2017 and 2019. Pretty well funded. I'd like to be the 6th company kind of on this list, but there's also some major brands in there. So Southwest, Airbnb, and Kayak have all put together some kind of like local guides, created by locals and but really they all failed, and they're all failing because there's 2 reasons. Poor content quality, meaning, a guide was created 2 years ago is obsolete right now. And same thing with the bloggers. Like there's no real relevancy. There's no real way to kind of sort and filter through all that. And then there's no motivation to share. So these services may even provide good, quality content, but there's no motivation for me to say, I had a good experience, let me go share that or kind of collaborate with other people. And so it just fails to grow. And then, so what I really came up with last year, or January 2019, was I needed an app that provided travel content that has the accuracy of Google, the relevance of a blog, the quickness of a top 10, and the honesty of a friend's recommendation, right? So I launched this beta in 2019. It was a beta test. It was ugly, disgusting, embarrassing, but it did its job. So they always say, like, if you're not embarrassed of your beta, then you waited too long. Well, I did not wait too long. And so what the Legend LGND travel app at the time did was basically had 5 cities loaded on there. You answered a quick survey about kind of who you are, what kind of age range, your trip type that you're taking, your budget, and we matched you up with a local guide who gave you their top 10, restaurants, bars, and nightlife, things to do, and what we call things to know, which are just like local tips. But I fell into the same trap that everybody else did, which is it was really hard to manage the content in there, keep it all fresh and up to date. And in addition, there wasn't really any kind of sharing or interactive component. Everybody loved the app once they were using it, but they were like, it took me a long time to find out about it, or I don't really know what to do with it. And then March 2019 happened and everything went silent. So the good thing is everything went silent for me, but everything went silent for everybody else too. Every guidebook, the travel guides, the Lonely Planets, the blogs, they are now completely obsolete because 1 in 4 businesses do not exist anymore and or are radically altered so that information is, again, obsolete. So what I did was I went back to the drawing board while I had my marketing consulting job and went in and said, how do I make this thing honest, accurate, relevant, and digestible? Just like I kind of showed you on the other slide, right? So I retooled it and actually just relaunched it last week, very quietly. as the pandemic kind of still roars, I'm just kind of softly launching it, getting some more feedback, but this thing is ready. And by this thing is ready, I mean, I'll kind of show it to you. So when you go to the Legend app now, which is available on both the app stores, Apple and Google, and what you do is you go in, you log in, and you create a trip, and you say for any city in the world, not just one of our 5, kind of featured cities, any city in the world, you tell us when you're going and kind of where you're going. And then the next feature, or the next part is in featured cities, which are, Asheville, Charleston, Chicago, Nashville, and Savannah. Our featured cities is where you can actually still match up with these local guides based on our survey and based on our matching formula. You get their recommendations in there, and you can start favoriting which ones you'll really like. So you can start collecting. If you have like 5 local guides that you've matched up with in the app, you can take 3 from this person, 2 from this person, and start building this little trip of all your favorite recommendations. And then in addition, what you can do is your trip now has a link, and you can send that out via email, text, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you would like. And you can say, hey, I'm going to Charlotte in a month. I've never been there before. What are your favorite recommendations? You can just post that on Facebook so that your friends can all start adding in their recommendations too. And you can favorite those, or you can, send them to the trash politely and silently, and you don't want to offend anybody, right? So that element actually now, that element actually now brings in the sharing component and the kind of whatever you want to call it, the virality, if you will. And then finally, you can organize your trip. You can store your favorite pics. You can use our maps. You can make the reservations. And really now you have this ultimate trip planner. How we're going to expand in 2021, once this thing kind of settles down, hopefully, is we're going to expand to more cities. We're going to get more local guides in all of these cities, which is around 20 each. We're going to get friends recommendations, which we expect actually every trip taker to bring 5 new users to our platform via that recommendations app. And then finally, I have scalable operations now. So this thing costs pennies to run and takes minutes to launch new cities. My biggest investment is just going out and finding local guides and getting them on the platform. In terms of updating and recommending everything, totally scalable. Quickly, the revenue strategy is going to be a white labeled visitors app. So I've already went out pre-pandemic and actually had 3 or 4 clients ready to go, but then everything kind of shut down. But this is essentially a way to create a new virtual visitor center. So instead of having a brick and mortar spot that costs a lot of money, what you can actually do is sell that or lease that out and turn this into a completely virtual white labeled experience. And then finally, I'm going to be growing my flagship app and the platform on the other side as well. And then hopefully partnering with a hotel chain, airline, credit card company to have them license this or kind of buy this out and use this to gain loyalty, to gain travelers, because the big picture is the pie has shrunk significantly, right? So the pie now is, instead of millions and millions of travelers, now there's maybe hundreds of thousands or, a couple million travelers. And you need to fight for that slice of the pie much harder, and you need to provide more value. And we think this is an app that's going to be able to do it for these brands. One key point I'll just kind of quickly go over is for a brand like Marriott, what they're doing now with pixel data and tracking and cookies and everything like that is they're creating as best a picture as they can for every traveler and trying to serve them the hotel or the advertisement that's going to get them to book the right hotel. But the chance of conversion is still pretty low. It's a very competitive space. Whereas with Legend, you have complete demographic and psychographic, we call it data, where you can now convert at a higher chance because you know exactly which hotel based on all of these things that they're giving us willingly in the app. So we think that makes a pretty compelling thing, case for a business to pick us up. And since everything is obsolete, since everybody's kind of back at ground zero, what we want to do is push out super early, kind of be the first mover advantage so that we have some momentum from day one. And as budgets start to pick back up, as the travel industry starts to rebound, we're there for them. Here's how you can help. We can download the Legend Travel app from the App Store, plan a trip. I don't say that right now. Obviously, you need to kind of do what's right for you and your family. But even if it's to get ideas for next year, go ahead and plan a trip inside the app.